Okay, so last month, we're in Vermont, as you can tell from the beautiful weather behind us. See the sky? That's Vermont.
Cold.
Last month in October, we started the month with telling everyone, because of the comment section that we were seeing, people wanted to see examples of us being intimate and doing it in a non-sexual way, in a way that shows that it doesn't need any particular moment or plan or time or anything like that. And then this month, as a response to all of those same comments, we are discussing communication in our posts. So we've gone from showing people, trying to help people see that intimacy and physical touch isn't just for sex and it doesn't need to be any time.
And that communication can be something that you also learn, because in previous months in conversation and in communication, there was like, yeah, I get all that, but I don't know how to communicate that. So November has mainly started, as you can tell, is about communication. And starting with open-ended questions and how do you not get what you're looking for in a sexual experience, as you gave the example of, but how do you
connect so that the two of you can create this unique sexual experience as your own, as our own, as opposed to my experience or your experience. It's going to be ours.
Because then otherwise, we were talking, it can create resentment of like, oh, this is her fantasy, this is his fantasy, this is their fantasy. So it's not really like our fantasy. And I appreciate you opening up my eyes to that, because it gives me a moment to go, oh, well, I talk about this like global perspective anyway, and I can see that I was being a little local.
Right.
Thank you for that, my dear partner.
Well, it's really, really easy to get into those things, especially when like we've had an awful, and this is what I've been noticing a lot in the comment section, is people saying like, well, I've had this fantasy and for years people have told me that it was ridiculous, or I'm just a typical man, or because my woman wants that particular fantasy, it means that I'm not good enough for her, or any of those things. Or I've been ridiculed in the past, it doesn't matter what gender, well, I've been ridiculed in the past for having this, and now that I have a partner sitting in front of me that wants to discuss it with me and help create that with me, I don't trust it, and I don't know how to share the remainders of it and help them, or trust them to hear me in the vision that I'm trying to create and the experience that I'm trying to create for us, as opposed to for myself. And I feel like if we move from, well, that's what my partner wants, so that means I'm lacking something, to that's what my partner wants to create together for us.
And even before, I had been in relationships that had shamed me. Michael had been in relationships where it was shamed or not completely seen as a full conversation, not even a conversation at all to be a part of. Or if the conversation was there, it wasn't completely finished. There was no action plan. And so this is what we're really talking about, is like, if we're going to talk about stuff, there has to be an action plan, a time limit to the action plan of like, so that way both people can be like, oh, it's not just something that we're talking about also, but it has a frame of time to move forward.
Right. You're kind of like saying like, okay, like,
because what happened with us too,
right,
is that one of us got a little like, it's not even on the calendar. And then we're like, oh, okay, we can look at this differently now. This seems to be something that's big for one of us.
Well, yeah. And with that, what we can also do is if we say like, well, like I want to kind of like start leaning towards this and do this in like a year's time or something like that, then what that does is that gives the two of you a time frame to kind of continue the discussion and continue the questioning and continue the, not questioning, but continuing the inquiring. And I think that like the good thing about having a deadline on it is that it really helps to kind of like figure out where it is in relation to you. But I feel like that it's equally important to have that timeline be flexible. And like if one partner or the other partner starts to feel overloaded, you can say, all right, let's push it out a weekend and try again, or something like that. Like, it's not, we don't keep anything set in stone, but we say, okay, this is the time frame when we'd like to kind of approach this. So between now and then, let's keep the discussion open and let's try to communicate and create, paint the room together.
And remember that discussion we were having earlier about painting the room, and we were talking about the movie The Core and how they went down to the center of the core and they didn't have enough petroleum to like make it last, because we were talking about like if we have one emotional break and it is this big, then the next one has to be this big, and then it has to be this big. And we were talking about how in the movie can you help me explain this?
Basically what Sassy's talking about is the idea that like if this experience was that much, then for the relationship to keep going, then the next experience must be that much. And then for the relationship to keep going, the next experience must be that much. And so on, and so on, and so on. And what that does is that puts a lot of pressure on the relationship. So her reference to the movie The Core was when you take situations and just kind of use them as little drops in the pond and allow them to build upon each other, not so much in going into a more grand and a more showy and more advanced direction, but more in a way that like allows us to kind of move closer and closer to each other. And you know, it doesn't require bigger and more grander actions. It just requires
Subtlety.
You know, subtlety and a gradual opening. And that's what this discussion's all about.
And what we've noticed with cracking ourselves open a lot lately is that sometimes it can be a lot to be cracked open. And so to have the next conversation just to be as cracking, it can actually be dismantling sometimes. And I get dismantled a lot. I need more time, more space to think, to feel, to understand what I'm actually feeling. And one of my favorite statements that you've given me grace to use is, I don't understand, I need more time, can we get back to this in 10 to 15 minutes or in the next
15 hours
10 to 15 hours.
Yeah.
And
because sometimes you just need the ability to chill for the night,
right? And then in the morning we talk really clearly about it, and then we're like, oh
yeah.
And I think I feel that when you do this, or when you give me the opportunity to understand that I have space and I can say something that I'm uncomfortable with, it also makes you understand of like, oh, so could my wording have changed? Did I say something wrong? Or did I say something that I said right and it just is really hitting you different? So I love the opportunities that you give for me, and I love the opportunities that I show for you of a possibility to keep growing, just as much as you show me how to be more politically correct of like how to say things as well too. And just understanding of communication is so much more than we think it is. It's so much more broad, it's deeper, and it's really inviting if you have.
Well, it's also threatening if it's the first time you're being invited.
Yes.
So.
That's a huge one. If you're first invited to a conversation, it can be that.
Send us some comments down below and let us know what else people are having challenges. Don't call them struggles, they're challenges. Let us know in the comments below like what else you're having challenges around communication with, what more you would like to see us expand on as far as the communication that we have, that we share with y'all. And is there anything else that you want us to expand on as far as intimacy goes? Like you know, intimacy is really a mirroring. That's why a lot of people don't really want to invest in relationships, because they don't want to look. It's not that they're like afraid of this person. It's they're afraid of this person. Because if I have to be open and vulnerable with this woman, then she's going to mirror me. That's part of our roles in a relationship.
Yeah.
And sometimes you hold up a big enough mirror when I'm being naked enough, and it's like, oh shit.
Like what happened on Friday when I was like, wait a second, I just shared with you and then you denied me. And you were like, oh.
Right. It's like, I realize, Mr. Wilson, you don't want to share this now, but I'm buck naked. Could you take your shirt off?
Could you? Thank you.
Yeah.
I love you very much. And I love the communication we have. And I know that sometimes we struggle, and I love our struggle because it's so pretty afterwards.
Not easy though, is it?
Oh, fuck, it's not easy. And every day I'm just like, I love you.
But
and
I'm gonna kill you.
I'm going to kill you. And I'm also going to kill you slowly.
I once heard a joke. No, we're not going to tell the joke. But either way, comment below. Let us know what you think. And we're going to be expanding on this in the future, depending on what people are asking for. So keep it up. Let us know what you're thinking.
Thanks, guys.